Well, I have two editorials I'm in the middle of that would not get done by today, so it seemed like a good time to review another Marvel movie and return my increasingly misnamed Road to Infinity War. Next movie is actually Ghost Rider, which I don't have access to an HD copy of. Next is Spider-Man 3, which I talked about recently. That brings us to this movie, a movie that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, so why not take some time to talk about it now? Watching this, I realized there's just so much more than a normal review here. A long time ago, I asked Twitter if they wanted me to do a Search for the Worst style series on comic book movies, but never got off the ground. This movie was so bad, it inspired me to give the series another shot. So I plug in this movie, and immediately, the very first shot is this special effects shot of a planet being destroyed. Now, look at the background. See those two incredibly poorly rendered planets that are clearly fake? This is the very first shot of the movie, and we are introduced to this world by these incredibly poorly done effects. The whole shot would actually look better if you simply remove those planets, which would be simple. The fact that wasn't done means no one cared to remove them and make the very first thing the audience sees look just a little bit better. It means no one cared about this movie at all.
I'm busy.
This is the first shot of the movie I'm harping on, and it tells us so much about what's in store. Anyways, we get the titles, then we get an incredibly fake-looking moon. How do you mess up the moon, for Christ's sakes? We see the streak traveling to Earth, where we see it have effect on many things, including this fishing boat, where one of the sailors falls off onto a green screen. Listen, I know this movie is 12 years old, and CGI has come a long way since then, but the special effects weren't remotely as bad as this movie would have you believe they were. What this movie is showing is an over-reliance on CGI, where alternate effects would have been better. Make a plastic sheet for this guy to land on instead of this incredibly poorly superimposed shot. But again, we are seeing that no one working on this movie gave a shit. We also get this shot of the Sphinx, which shows the streak overhead. Then we cut to people on a soundstage getting fake snow dumped on them. Then we return to this shot of the Sphinx with random weather effects on it. It's not that far away from this. It, of course, hits the US, and we see how the Fantastic Four finds out about this by watching TV. And I just have to ask, what did they do to Jessica Alba in this movie? In the first, she actually dyed her hair and still had to wear blue eye contacts. She already looked a little weird there. But here, she keeps the contacts, and they give her a wig, and instead of making a realistic color, they go for almost a bleached blonde, which takes the already gorgeous-looking Alba and makes her look downright bizarre. Almost like they just bought a random blonde wig and didn't care what the end result would look like.
What's wrong with your face?
We see they are getting on a plane, and instantly I'm confused. Can the thing fly? The last movie made a point of showing his inability to ride elevators, and apparently even service elevators because they made him take the damn stairs.
I'll take the stairs.
How easy will it be for a plane to move with him on board?
Is that a rhetorical point, or would you like to do the math?
I'd like to do the math.
Now, according to the comic books, Thing is 500 pounds. Unfortunately, we know this isn't his weight in the movies because a regular-sized elevator can handle around 4,500 pounds. Smaller buildings have elevators that can handle far less, but the Baxter Building has always been seen as at least a somewhat tall building, at least 10 stories. It's incredibly blurry here, but you can clearly see a 15 and a number above it, so the building is at least 16 floors, probably more considering the number layout. So it's safe to assume Sue, Johnny, and Reed have a combined body weight of around 500 pounds, meaning Thing must weigh around 4,000 pounds in this movie. The plane math gets a little fuzzy because they never specify what type of plane they board. It looks standard, so let's just say a 737. Now that plane can handle around 175,000 pounds total, but now you have to subtract the plane's weight and fuel, leaving 45,000 pounds for passengers and luggage. A 737 can typically hold around around 85 to 215 passengers. One thing we do know about the plane.
I'm very sorry, but it seems we're overbooked.
So let's assume it's a 737 with 215 passengers on board. That leaves an average of 210 pounds per person. However, if we factor the thing's weight and eliminate Johnny since he flies next to the plane, we end up with each other person on the flight bringing themselves and baggage having to equal 193 pounds or less. With an obesity epidemic in the US, for the thing to fit with only one seat, which is clearly shown, this flight would have been made up of some of the fittest, shortest people in the country. Oh, by the way, I'm about 6 minutes into this movie so far. You might be saying, the plane bit is clearly a joke. Don't overthink it. But here's the problem. Yes, it is clearly a joke, but it's not funny, and it flies in the face of previously established continuity, which was also just a joke. This franchise is just showing that its reality is dependent on what joke they want to tell at the moment. Here's a fun tip on jokes.
You know, everything is not an anecdote. You have to discriminate. You choose things that are funny or mildly amusing or interesting. You're a miracle. Your stories have none of that. They're not even amusing accidentally.
Anyways, now I have to backtrack because we missed it establishing that Susan wants Reed to focus purely on wedding stuff and not on science stuff.
This is gonna be the wedding you've always dreamed of. And I'm not gonna let anything get in the way of that. Not even the mysterious transformation of matter at the subatomic level.
This is a bit baffling because if she's also not at least somewhat into science stuff, she's marrying the wrong man. Asking a character like Reed Richards not to science is like asking Superman not to be from Krypton. It's a key component of his character. It's a feature, not a bug. But that's also the lesser evil this movie commits with this idea. We see how the streak is causing the science anomalies Reed wants to look into and how they came from a plant being destroyed, meaning the audience will be much more interested in Reed's science because we know that's where the real story is. The characters will keep pushing it to the background, forcing us to endure many discussions on the wedding that the movie is clearly more into than the audience. Yes, let's talk about Reed and Sue's wedding. Global disaster can wait. Reed tries to do science, but Johnny takes him to his bachelor party. This is where we see Reed dance with girls using some incredibly poorly rendered CG.
It's so bad.
Sue, of course, sees this and gets mad.
Unless you need to do jello shots off someone's stomach.
Then they are whisked away by General Hagar. Fun fact, Hagar was supposed to be Nick Fury, but when Fox asked for the rights to the character, Marvel said no because they were already well into production of Iron Man, where Nick Fury gets a cameo that was far more memorable than anything Hagar does. Hagar wants Reed's help with the streak that's doing huge amounts of damage, but Reed says no because he's got wedding stuff. After that, Sue reveals that him dancing with the girls, which she got mad at him for, was nothing compared to what she did at her bachelorette party. So, she's a giant hypocrite.
Besides, it was nothing compared to what I did at my bachelorette party.
Got your back, Jack. Bitches be crazy.
Anyways, Reed does help the general behind Sue's back, but he can't help too much because we have to get to a wedding that the public is apparently way too into. It makes the front page of the paper. Perhaps they're saying, in this universe, nothing of significance happens except the Fantastic Four. Either that, or it's just a bad movie.
Oh, well, no shit, Sherlock!
Anyways, the streak pops up at the wedding and causes a very boring helicopter crash. We know the four are more than capable of handling this, yet the whole scenario tries to build tension by looking like people we're supposed to care about may die, when we know this clearly will not happen. With the crisis averted, Sue decides to sit down, clearly depressed that the wedding did not happen.
Oh my god, who the hell cares?
This takes the first scene in this movie that I would actually consider good, the Human Torch's chase of the streak, which is the titular Silver Surfer. Sure, the effects are as lazy as ever, and Johnny's voiceover is a weird choice.
Manny's fast. Time to end this.
It's the only time it's used in the movie, and it actually would be more natural just to have him talk to himself. Maybe it's supposed to be like that with really bad ADR. Still, the chase is effective and a great showcase for the Surfer's powers. Unfortunately, it has to end and we get back to the rest of the movie. By the way, we are already a third into this movie, and all that's happened is the Surfer flew to Earth, wedding planning, and Doctor Doom's revival. I haven't covered that yet. He woke up in his crate when the surfer came to Earth, and since he apparently was just standing there, does he not need food or water anymore? Anyways, he wakes up, attacks the guy helping him, and tracks down the surfer. The surfer hits him with a blast that has the side effect of healing him. This doesn't play into the movie whatsoever, and is clearly just there so they don't have to apply makeup to Julian McMahon. Because if any one word describes this movie the best, it's lazy.
Jesus, I said I'm busy.
Meanwhile, Sue says she's cool with Reed helping the general, but is mad that they will never have a normal life. How is this just now occurring to her? Did it not occur to her that their wedding being front page news isn't normal? They decide to leave the team, and of course Johnny overhears this because the movie has the writing quality of a daily soap opera. Johnny also has a side effect from his encounter with the surfer. He is now able to switch powers with any member of the Fantastic Four he touches, which leads to hijinks with Ben and a scene with Jessica Alba half naked because objectifying women is so much fun. Reed finds out that the surfer will hit London next. Johnny messes up and hits Reed during the rescue of people and switches powers with him. Reed has to quickly figure out how to solve the situation with Johnny's powers, which he does, and everyone is saved. But now the general is mad at them because they messed up.
What the hell was that?
We'll make adjustments. Next time we'll be ready.
Next time. There's no next time.
Yet, literally, no one was harmed, and they averted a huge disaster. Yet that isn't good enough. The general brings Doom on board to help, and says one of the dumbest lines ever.
General, we know firsthand. You trust Victor, and you're gonna regret it.
So far, the only one I've regretted trusting here is you.
This could very well be the stupidest person on the face of the earth.
Wait, under Reed's leadership, they saved everyone in London, yet because there was a mess up, the general will now trust Doom? Is last movie no longer canon? Because Doom killed a lot of people in that movie. Yeah, don't trust the hero who had a minor mistake. Instead, trust the mass murderer. Great thinking. They look over this footage Doom had and make a huge assumption. This video shows a ripple that comes on the board and forms a blast at Doom. It does not mean his power comes from the board. It means he probably gets at least some power from the board.
If we can separate him from the board, we can cut off his power completely.
They take this crumb of information, and instead of approaching it carefully, like scientists, they make broad assumptions about it. This movie is literally selling Reed as the best scientist in the world.
I'm one of the greatest minds of the 21st century.
Yet he reaches conclusions based on the flimsiest of evidence. Anyways, they devise a plan to separate the surfer from his board. Want to see how Reed comes up with the idea?
I can already feel your pulse slowing down. Do you remember that time in school?
A pulse.
A tachyon pulse.
It's like they copied a page from Cliché Screenwriting 101. Not to mention, it's not clear at all how Reed knows the tachyon pulse will work, considering all the evidence he has on the surfer is a video from Doom. But of course it does, but not before the surfer tells Sue that the world destroyer they are looking for is in another castle. The military takes the surfer and the four to a base and lock them all up. But the four sneak out, and Sue sneaks into the surfer's room to get information about where he is from. And he is nice enough to turn his belly into a TV for her.
That's just fucking weird.
Anyways, Doom steals the surfboard and kills a bunch of military guys, including the general. Wow, you mean you couldn't trust him more than Reed? That's a shocker. And now we get to the big final conflict, and it is simply the Fantastic Four versus a more powerful Dr. Doom.
You know, I've never been the giving type, Reed.
And the Oscar goes to...
Yeah, who wants to see a fight with a world-destroying being when we could just do what we did in the last movie, but with a surfboard and the Fantastic Car? Doom kills Sue, and Johnny takes everyone's powers and defeats Doom. I'm not sure how he keeps his own powers, but Ben helps with a crane somehow. I'm sorry, but the only way Johnny might be able to defeat Doom solo is if he also gets Dalton's help. Surfer is rejoined with his board, resurrects Sue, and kills Galactus because they might as well just named him Deus Ex Machina. In the comic book, Galactus simply exiles Surfer on Earth so he can never see his family again. Surfer cannot kill Galactus because he gets all his powers from Galactus. It'd be like a battery overloading itself with it being the only power source. It's not a thing. If this ending seemed rushed, that's because it is. It's like they just wanted to end the movie the fastest way possible and threw together what they could in an hour. Sue and Reed make a new plan to get married. From the way things happened, it seemed like their best move would be to go to a courthouse ASAP with Ben and Johnny and elope. But instead they have a fancy wedding in Japan because that's somehow easier. Johnny's girlfriend almost catches the bouquet and he tortures it because he's an asshole. That's the thing. Despite having a lot of good actors here, no one feels like a character. They just feel like plot points to push the story forward. The only good thing about this movie is its mercifully short runtime. A runtime that has wasted so much on wedding discussion that will make you never want to get married just to avoid the word wedding ever being heard again. The raw laziness in this movie is best represented by Galactus. He's just a cloud here because clearly no one wanted to actually put work into reimagining him from the comic book. The entire movie stinks of complete half-assery at every level. That's why Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is one of the worst comic book movies ever made.
It's like people only do things because they get paid. And that's just really sad.
I can't talk about it anymore. It's giving me a headache.
Here, take 2 of these.
Ah, new print. Little, yellow, different.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be.